Hi there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com here with the wrap-up video for our Playing on a Budget Skred Red. We had a 4-0, which even with, well, I'm going to flat out say that we got pretty lucky with a lot of the matchups, A, and B, we got very lucky with our opponents mulliganing a lot in those games, and Blood Moon came out on time against those where it's really good against. So definitely, you won't see that result every time you play this deck. You're not going to have the Blood Moons. I think going up to 4 Blood Moons is awesome. One in the sideboard. Again, it takes it off the budget. But let's just talk about that here. In the wrap-up videos, I think what we're going to talk mainly focus on is how we can make this non-budget. The first thing you want to do is you can go up to either more Stormbreath Dragons or Wurmcoil Engines. But the card that I know wants to be in here is going to be the Batterskull. So Batterskull's around, I would say $18 to $20 right now. But what this does is it gives you the reach that this deck sometimes needs against control. As if they kill like a Wurmcoil Engine, they have to kill it 3 times, which is really good about Wurmcoil Engine. But sometimes your Planeswalkers will die, and you need an extra just thing to throw out that has lifelink that can recur. I was actually testing this deck with Morton, my buddy Morton, that actually this is his go-to deck for Modern, and we played kind of a mirror Skred versus Skred, and Batterskull won the game we were playing. And then the other card he had in there that was very hard for me to deal with was Ugin, which, again, with Ugin being 8 mana, you can go first turn Snow-Covered Mountain, second turn Snow-Covered Mountain Mindstone, third turn Koth of the Hammer, and play another Snow-Covered Mountain, and then fourth turn Snow-Covered Mountain, -2 Koth of the Hammer, which adds red to your mana pool, tap all of your mountains and the Mind Stone, and then you get out the Ugin. So that's the quickest way to get Ugin out. If you get Ugin out on turn 4, it is pretty easy to just dominate the game, especially Modern, as if you board wipe, say, Affinity, it's impossible for them to come back. It exiles everything, and the Bless 2 is really good. Puts them up to 9. There isn't a lot of cards like Hero's Downfall in the format, so when people kill Planeswalkers in Modern, it's through damage usually, or through, it can't be Abrupt Decay, it could be Pulse, Maelstrom Pulse, but sometimes those cards start to get into the range of 3 mana cost. So Ugin and Batterskull are definitely not budget. There were cuts I had to make early on to his list, and then he was running 2 Stormbreath Dragons rather than Thundermaw Hellkite, because he said against Abzan, Thundermaw Hellkite can wipe the Lingering Souls, but sometimes more importantly is Stormbreath Dragon dodging all of the removal, except for Maelstrom Pulse. So it dodges Abrupt Decay, it dodges the Path to Exile, and in a lot of the Abzan decks, that is what they're running as their go-to removal, is the 4 Path to Exiles and 4 Abrupt Decays, and then relying on just a few other spot removal. And then, again, if you have 2 Stormbreath Dragons, a lot of times they can just stay out there for quite a while. Another good thing about Stormbreath Dragon is it blocks the Siege Rhino. You can say the exact same thing about Thundermaw Hellkite, but Stormbreath Dragon actually block and survive if it has any sort of counters on it. It's very easy to Monstrosity the Stormbreath Dragon in this deck, so it becomes a 7/7, which puts your opponent on a very, very fast clock. He did not run so many Mind Stones. I absolutely love the Mind Stones because look at these 4 drops. You're either ramping into a Solemn Simulacrum, a Koth, or a Chandra Pyromaster. So I'm pretty much set on the Mind Stones in the deck. And he runs 1 less Pyrite Spellbomb. And again, it's really just for the Batterskull and the Ugin. I'll have to look at his list exactly what he has in here. And in the sideboard, he's got 1 more Blood Moon. He doesn't have quite as many Dragon's Claws, but you do have options for some of the more expensive. One of the reasons why my sideboard isn't very diverse is just because of that budget reason. There's Shattering Sprees that are $4 a piece, which has Replicate and can destroy an artifact. And I'm sure there's cards that I'm not even thinking of in the sideboard that could easily go in this deck. And you could go up to a certain amount of Ugins or even more Batterskulls in the sideboard. I'm thinking the Wurmcoil is really amazing in this deck, and maybe just takes the place of Thundermaw and Stormbreath Dragon completely. But I'll have to do a lot more testing. Again, my buddy has a lot more experience. This is, I'd never, besides the one game that I play tested against Morton, I have not played this deck whatsoever. I played against it like maybe once, I would say, with various decks against it. So I know the idea of the deck, but I don't have the experience that Morton does, and I'll have to give you an update maybe on my channel exactly about how you side for this deck, what comes in, what comes out. But it's pretty self-explanatory. Creature-based decks, you're going to bring in even more anti-creature. We didn't get to see the twin matchup, but Combust usually plays the same role as Blood Moon, which it completely can hose the Splinter Twin, because this is an uncounterable 5 damage to whatever they Splinter Twin. And Splinter Twin's alternate win condition is trying to rely on like Snapcaster Bolt, just attacking in with Deceiver Exarchs, attacking in with just 2/1 flyers, Pester Mites. And your deck has a ton of Lightning Bolts and Skreds and ways to actually deal with that. The Combust, if you have a Combust in your hand, it can become very, very hard for the Splinter Twin to win. And also, according to Morton, Boyle is very good against it. If they know you're holding up, like if you have combusted something away, they usually play a heavy island list now with cryptic commands. And if you hit a well-timed Boyle, you can just completely decimate them. And Volcanic Fallout's one other way that actually can work very well against Twin is if they go on a Pestermite and you think that they're safe going off, then you can instant speed Volcanic Fallout. It gives you one more out versus it. Volcanic Fallout's also very good against a number of aggro-based decks. So just a solid deck. We didn't get to see Burn. According to Morton, Burn is probably public enemy number 1. That's why I decided to go with 4 Dragon's Claws. I'm sure there's other sideboard cards you could bring in that... I'm sure there's a red card somewhere out there that either has pro-red that you can bring in. And I can actually think of a few creatures. Yeah, there's like Cost Courier. Is it Cost Courier, or there's one, or Volshock. Volshock something out of one of the Scars blocks. It was a 3-mana protection red, but I'm sure there's like a 1-mana protection red card or 2-mana protection red card you could bring in as well. But I really don't suggest going. I've seen some of these decks use snow-covered swamps and then going Slaughter Games and Rakdos Charm in the sideboard, and a few other. I'm sure there's some, you have access to other black cards, but there's very few snow-covered swamps, and then you have to go the whole, well, now we need Bloodstained Mires. How is this going to affect Skred? How is this going to affect the Scrying Sheets and whatnot? Anyway, I've been rambling for quite a while, but I'll show you some. I'm going to try to make most of these decks that I play on playing on a budget. If I like the decks, I'll play them on Rogue Deck Builder with the non-budget and see how well they perform. So if you're interested in that, definitely come out and check my channel at Rogue Deck Builder, YouTube/Rogue Deck Builder, and we'll try to actually queue this up in the non-budget, see exactly what works, what doesn't work, and really give a more detailed analysis of this deck. I'm loving this deck. I'm thinking it is well positioned in Modern right now. Thinking that we saw that Blue Moon's probably well positioned as well in Modern, and maybe I'll have to try and see if we can get Blue Moon down to budget. And I doubt it, though, because Blue Moon needs cards like Scalding Tarn. So anyway, I'm going to do, probably for next week, one more Modern, and then Dragons of Tarkir will be out, and then I'll start brewing for Dragons of Tarkir. And as always, thanks for watching. This has been Kevin with Gathering Magic. See you next time.